continuing the conversation a little bit about the flow of wealth and some ideas regarding just the nature of getting the resources, getting funding and such for projects more specific to the creative outlets and the film industry and the like, and what type of projects are getting funded. And of course, this is specific to an industry that I'm involved in, which makes it something I can comment on because I've done the research and such over the last year because of a few projects that I was involved in to help develop and to try and get funding. And what you find pretty quickly is that there's gatekeepers at every doorway. There are institutional, industrial, corporate, gatekeepers. There's really no other term for it. And when it comes to funding, especially in the perhaps entry-level, lower budget, independent level type things, there's a specific type of project that's getting funding, types, I guess, specific to the ideologies and ideas that you see and you're familiar with in the mainstream. Just like you see a lot of the same actors for some reason. You know, Hollywood seems to have only 10 or 15 people who are able to act in any major film, which is insane. But you see them in so many different films and hit TV shows and all these things because maybe their agreement makes it so that they need to be part of these things, or that they were willing to do whatever was required so they could be prolific in their works for this particular, 10-year span of time. Regardless, if you look at the things that are getting funded, and especially entry level in the beginning phases, which is where a lot of people are cutting their teeth and trying to open some doors and create opportunities for themselves, you're seeing that the horror films, the zombie films, the post-apocalyptic notions, and again, I've spoken about the inversion of the idea of apocalypse, which has nothing to do with end times. You see the hyper-violent type things, especially, not necessarily John Wick, because those are big budget things, but all the spillover effect with the female warrior, hero, violent, ass-kicking character types, the total inversion of the masculine and feminine energies and ideas and archetypes. See the inversion and distortion of the idea of family, the inversion, distortion, idea of gender, the inversion and distortion, right, across all these different things. Normalizing things such as autism, normalizing dysfunction, brokenness, weakness, putting in the forefront certain characters, archetypes, and myths. It doesn't take long. You can just see in any top 20, list and the trending list on your favorite streaming service or your favorite rating website, whatever it might be. All of these things are heavily curated and controlled, right? There's no accident to the films and books and all the like that are the first things that you'll see when you walk into the Walmarts and the malls and movie theaters and, the most popular websites, the Amazons where you buy things. The first things you'll see, make note of what's at the top of every page of the sites that you most frequently visit, even social media, right? But you'll see that all of these things are heavily curated and controlled. And if you're trying to get certain types of projects produced that you believe to be uplifting or, potentially paradigm shifting, if you don't fit within a certain segment, a certain archetype, a certain conversation genre that they're looking for and currently funding, whether you're looking for $250,000 or up to 10, 15, maybe even 20 million for indies, as it were, right off the bat you're going to be blocked and not prioritized, whether it's from government funding, institutional distribution, otherwise, even the networks and co-production type options. There's a very narrow thing that's happened over the last decade, probably more, but more specifically and aggressively in the last 10 years. And you'll see the same acronyms and initials and trendy terms and DEI, this, that, and the other thing. And marginalized, this, that, and the other thing. That's well and good. But when the vast majority, again, of people are being overly scrutinized and limited from the outset, when the vast majority of the industry is being pushed aside to the fringes so that this vast and extreme minority gets priority in all of these funding opportunities, distribution, sales, network streamers. How is that going to work out for the industry at large? It's going to, of course, hamper and hinder the entire industry. It's going to have the knock-on effect of slowing down production across the board, and which is exactly what we've seen in the last couple of years, whether it's the animation industry, film industry, TV shows and such. There's been a dramatic slowdown. How is that surprising to anyone who is paying attention? How is that in any way surprising, given the parameters that these ideological and political movements have introduced and instilled and invited and imposed upon the entire industry, especially in Western Empire? So don't think it's that you are doing something wrong if you're wanting to pursue something in a more, what you feel to be an important message or story, something based on a true artistic form, something that's authentic and human and genuine, something that's even, more traditional or faith-based. You're going to have to look elsewhere beyond the mainstream. And there are more networks and opportunities now to do that, or, private or smaller business models, studios, production houses and such that are, self-funding or building their own parallel sort of networks to be able to do these things and to pursue these things, crowdfunding and the like. So there are ways and means to do that. It's just different, and you have to be willing to look outside the box and think outside the box, or just change your approach, because there's right now, due to just, again, this political and ideological inversion and perversion of the mainstream and the gatekeeping and, the narrative controlling, curation and cultural industrial complex, whatever you want to call it, there's a lot of room at the top. And what I mean, there's a lot of room for genuine, quality, authentic, beautiful, empowering work. There's probably never been more room, because there's so much shit, there's so much propaganda, there's so much narrative and mind control nonsense, and things that I talk about frequently that are negative, that are anti-human, that are divisive, polarizing, right? And speak to death, contagion, zombies, blah, blah, blah. All this brutal, violent, disgusting, disempowering entertainment, which of course is entrainment, that weakens you subconsciously, that weakens you then consciously, alters your behavior, your beliefs, and how you present yourself and what you prioritize in this world. So these are important things to consider. So given these particular perspectives, we might want to lean into the idea that there is something wrong with what we're trying to produce, what we're trying to convey, what we're trying to pursue as far as a career, and again, specific to what I'm talking to here, whether it's film, music, whatever, some sort of creative outlet. We might think that, or we might mistakenly internalize these things because it's so difficult to get in the doors, have the meetings, to get the funding, to apply for even the basic assistance from a multi-billion-dollar industry. Whether it's Canada or the US, doesn't matter. There's billions and billions flowing through the system. It's just that whole pipeline has been narrowed quite a bit. And these are natural, you could say it natural, but I mean, it's an unnatural cycle that happens with this expansion and contraction. Right now, it's in a kind of a, I would say, it seems evident it's in a bit of a contraction sort of phase, because everything exploded over the last 10 years due to the streamers, the Netflix and the like. They needed more content right now because, a whole society, a whole generation got into binging. And, waiting a week for the next episode became an annoyance, a nuisance, because so many older shows and popular shows that people have watched are, of course, the entire series, every episode was available right now, so people could, dive in and go deep, watch an entire season or series in a weekend if they wanted to. So this altered the whole consciousness around the industry, and entities such as the Netflix, which then spawned all the other streamers you know of now. Of course, everybody wanted to have their own subscription model. Everybody wanted to do, just like television back in the day, all of these things that you had to pay for extra channels and stuff. It's the exact same model that's just been recycled anew, and it's going through the exact same problems. We shouldn't be surprised. Over diversified, over leveraged, watered down, and then they have to create garbage content, filler content, or the remakes, prequels, sequels, all the derivatives that are completely just destroying franchises that people know and love. We see how these things have played out. So right now, the industry is going through phases of resets and recalibrations. That being said, there's every day films being made, shows being made, content being produced at different production value levels. But in the mainstream, you'll see, if you're trying to get funding, it's going to be very difficult, depending, of course, on what your priorities are, what you're trying to get done, what you're wanting to produce. If you're more strictly career-oriented and it really doesn't matter the genre, you're probably going to be fine, because it's all about just getting the work, getting the experience, getting in the door, and then let's keep on keeping on. So what if it has to be this type of genre for their first couple of years, or 10 films or shows, whatever it might be? So what? The point is to get the experience, to start networking with the people, to start working with financiers, distributors, production partners, etc., right? So again, it's all how you frame it. It's only limited by your own self-imposed limitations, like any other field, like any other career in existence, any other pursuit. It's all how you frame it. So depending on your perspective, your framework, your beliefs, you are either going to run into roadblocks, and you're going to have things to complain about and to blame and to make excuses and to defer, as we spoke about in the previous video, or you're going to see them as opportunities or ways to recalibrate, approach things in a slightly different manner, to reorient and to reassess what it is you're truly going after, what it is you truly want to achieve, as I was just speaking about. Is it about building a career, a CV, getting experience? Or is it about, I'm going to do my film in my way, come what may? Even if I have to just buy a few cameras myself and get a few friends to act, and we do it on weekends, which is a severe compromise in quality and potential, but it can be done. We have amazing tools these days to be able to, anybody with any basic laptop can make a film, and you don't need 4K, 8K, 10K, whatever resolution to do it. You can still use film if you wanted to. But the point is, the tools have never been more accessible to do decent and higher quality type productions. It all comes down to what it is you are intending to do, what it is your motivation is. What are you going to put yourself through? What are you willing to go through? What is your actual priority, value? What's your aim, immediate and long term? What is it you're trying to pursue? And regarding the flow of wealth, if you're putting the blame on the idea of, well, we can't do it because nobody wants to fund it, we can't do it because nobody wants to buy it or distribute it, have you exhausted all the options? Have you looked at all potential avenues? Have you looked beyond your borders? If you're, selling the idea of a film or TV show or series, whatever genre, this is an international, worldwide business, right? Canada, US, Japan, whatever, 200 countries in the world. And there are, the established sort of places that you go through, and the knowns, which are more difficult, because as I was saying, there's gatekeepers in a lot of these things. There are political and ideological roadblocks that you might run into very quickly. And if you want to wait, that's fine. If you want to get on their waiting lists, that's fine. There's only so much funding per, term, whatever it is throughout the year, depending on where you're applying for support. There's only so much they'll have per quarter, per year for these programs. And again, as I've said, they're going to prioritize certain specific things based on political trends, ideological trends. And, in the greater sense, There's obviously the conspiratorial aspect to it, wherein there's this cultural narrative and this mind control agenda and all these things that are playing out too. And you can't do anything about that. So if you're keen to keep your career going and to not stagnate and to be frustrated and angry and projecting and blaming and all the rest of it, you need to shift your mindset and start walking and adapt and move into some sort of directions, whatever it might be, to start gaining a little momentum, a little experience, build some relationships or networking, whatever it might be. Don't limit and put those blinders on, as I was speaking in the previous video, because you'll very quickly narrow it down to an extremely narrow focus. And if that works for you, great. But the world around you is trying to guide you and push you in certain ideological, political, cultural, social kind of ways. So be careful of that, be aware of that. Decide, I guess, for yourself what you value the most and prioritize, because you're going to compromise and accommodate. And if you get into the habit of compromising and accommodating, you'll get into it 5, 10, 20 years. And how are you going to feel about that? How are you going to feel empty and like you sold your soul, whatever it is? Because the system is more than ready to eat your soul up. It will take from you everything that you want to give it. However, if you stand for something and you have certain ideas and values and stories and fundamental paradigmatic sort of ideas that you want to get out there, and you want to stand for something real and true and authentic, that's going to be a different path, isn't it? And you're going to probably have to go through different machinations and through a different process to achieve these things. You'll figure it out as you go. The point is just to keep moving, and those ideas, those people, those resources will start showing up, because you're going to gain experience. You're going to start understanding the language, whatever field you're pursuing, whatever goal you're moving toward. You're going to start learning about the technology if you're using tech, whatever it is, right? You're going to start speaking the language. You're going to start understanding how to promote yourself in certain arenas, how to speak to distributors, publishers, right? You'll learn as you go, and then the resources ideally will start showing up and start slotting in, and you'll start being able to earn perhaps some rewards and payback from your efforts. But if you're narrowing it to only one door when there's 100, even though most of them don't really look appealing right off the bat because they're painted in a certain light, they're representing a certain ideology or political thing that you don't agree with, you might be closing off too many things. And just beyond that door opens a whole different vista. I'm speculating here, and this is an opinion, but don't limit yourself to that one field, that one potential, that one path, unless that is what matters most to you, because you're going to work and take care of things in the meantime until that door opens, right? You're going to prepare as best you can, learn as best you can, get some experience otherwise, or from a completely different field, just have a normal job, whatever it might be, or operate a different kind of business for a while to build things up until you see that door just creak open a little bit so that you can finally kick it open, because market trends will change, right? Political things, winds will change. Hopefully that door might at some point open for you, and that's great. Power to you if that works. However, the point I was trying to make with this whole chat is that you're going to see these roadblocks. You're going to run into these gatekeepers, these institutional, corporate, and industrial, monoliths that are going to prevent, limit, want to distort and pervert and invert what it is that you are presenting. And beyond that, of course, the people that you're going to need to build a team are going to have their own political views and preferences and values and priorities. So you'll have to consider carefully how you're going to involve yourself with these peoples and their companies and what have you, right? So accept the fact that there's going to be resistance. At the first stage, it's your own beliefs, it's your own ideologies and paradigms and your subconscious programming that's kept you going so far in certain ways in this life, in the way that you've experienced it, right? Accept that you're going to have to overcome things. You're going to have to break through your own barriers, psychological, spiritual, metaphysical, emotional. You're going to have to learn as you go, and that you'll trip and fall and get up and keep learning. And that's just part of the process. And expect that kind of resistance, especially if you're doing something that is, human-centric, uplifting, and doesn't fit into these very narrow margins, doesn't fit into these ideological trends, doesn't fit into these acronyms and, popular things, unless you're willing to bend over backward to accommodate and compromise all these ideas. And if that works for you, that's fine. If you're thinking more 1, 2, 5, 10, 20 years, right? This is just a temporary blip. This is a temporary roadblock. This is just a step along the way. So be it. It's all how you perceive it and how you look at it and how you frame it. It's all about that perception and that perspective. And you can disempower or empower yourself with whatever is presented to you. It's either black or white, or it's a doorway. It's closed or it's open. It's all up to you how you choose to frame that and what you choose to make of it. And as it is with anything in this life, we limit ourselves. We decide, we choose what to do with that data, what to do with that information. We choose how our reaction serves us. We choose how to either be prolific, productive, and producing, or to be reactive, deferring, delaying, waiting, putting off, procrastinating, whatever it might be. We choose. So choose. Have a good one.
It's been coming down every other day, but they tell me we are in drought season. That's not my story, not my reality. No matter what you force my eyes to see, and the sky is falling right on top of me, but they tell